solemnly swear or affirm that evidence you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Understood. Get you to state your name and then spell your last name for the court.
Erica Dontell, Dontell.
Meagan? Yes. Thank you. What do you do for a living?
I'm a teacher,
What grade?
4th grade.
Are you married?
Yes.
And what's your husband's name?
Christopher Dontell.
And is he the Christopher Dontell who is involved in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you two been married?
10 years today.
Do you have any children?
2.
And were you working back in 2019 into 2020?
Yes, I was in transition. I had left my in-school position, kind of transitioned to working at my sister-in-law's daycare when I was pregnant with Clayton. And then in 2020, I got hired at my virtual school that I'm at now.
Okay. And so let me talk about, well, I'll get to that in just a minute. Was your husband working at that time, Chris Dontell?
Yes.
What was he doing?
His main job was, he has a facility maintenance company that does maintenance all up and down the East Coast. And then he also was a deputy coroner for Horry County.
What did he do prior to being a deputy coroner?
He worked for a body transport company that moved deceased bodies for funeral homes and for the county.
Now thinking back to 2019 and 2020, you mentioned somewhere during one of your answers that you were pregnant with Blake. How old were your children? Or obviously that's a span of time. How old were they at that time?
Clayton.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
So Clayton was born in April of 2019. So he was up to a year. And then Charlie was 3 at the time.
How, in 2019, 2020, would that have covered the time period of COVID?
Yes.
So tell me sort of what was going on in your marriage at that time.
We were experiencing some difficulties just because like I said, I had left my full-time teaching job and went back to the daycare, which was a good pay cut. And then when COVID struck, then Chris's business with the maintenance company pretty much came to a halt because gas stations and things weren't open like they were. And so that just put a lot of strain on us, and he was working for the coroner's office, and we had our 2 very little kids at home, so he was on calls a lot, so it was just stress and not sleeping with a new baby, so.
So not an easy time.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know the defendant, Meagan Jackson?
Yes.
How did you meet her?
I met her for the first time at the celebration lunch that they had for Chris when he moved from the transport company to work for the county. And then shortly after that, she moved into our neighborhood and we became friends.
Okay. Do you recall about when she moved into your neighborhood?
I want to say maybe like December of 2019.
How far away from you did she move?
Just the back of the neighborhood, like 2 streets over.
Did you know if Meagan had any children at that time?
Yes.
How many children did the defendant have?
4.
Do you know their approximate ages? You don't have to be exact.
I think when we met them, 15, 13, maybe 9 and 8.
Prior to, let me back up. When you first met the defendant, were you and your husband and your children already living in River's Edge?
Yes.
Okay. When the defendant moved into your neighborhood, did your families start hanging out together?
Yes.
When the defendant moved into your neighborhood, was it just her and her children, or did someone else live with her?
Yep, just her and the kids.
Did the fact that this was the period of COVID affect how much time y'all spent together?
Yes, because we would always get together and things, but then once everything shut down, we were at each other's houses every day. Either her kids were at my house or we were at her house every day.
Did you consider her a friend back then?
On this day 5 years ago, yes.
Do you consider her a friend now?
No.
You said that the defendant had 4 children. Did you know who their father was?
I knew of him, but I had never met him, but I knew his name was Greg.
So you never met him, you didn't know him personally?
There was one time that I think he either picked up or dropped off the kids in the neighborhood, and we saw him in the car, but never like corresponded with him or anything.
Did the defendant ever talk to you about her relationship with Greg Rice?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. Just a leading question.
Go ahead.
How did she describe her relationship with Greg Rice?
It sounded very toxic. She mentioned a lot of abuse, and she would say things like, "Oh, I'm going to go drop off the kids if I'm not back in an hour, or send somebody to look for me." And it just sounded, she just made it seem very hostile.
When she mentioned abuse, did you ever see any signs of abuse on her? Any bruises, cuts, broken bones, or anything?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever see any evidence that he was abusive other than what the defendant said?
No, just what she said.
Courts and buildings. Can you describe for the jury how big or small a part of your life, your family's life, the defendant became during this time period?
Very big. I mean, she literally infiltrated our whole lives, from our kids to our finances to just all areas. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was waiting to.
Yeah, she just, I mean, like I said, we were together pretty much every day. And even if us grown-ups weren't, like her kids were with my kids all the time. So.
Was the defendant working, where was the defendant working at this point?
Grindstaff Transport, she had taken Chris's spot.
Did that mean that the defendant and your husband worked together quite a bit?
Yes.
At some point, did you become aware that, or were you told that the defendant and your husband were having an affair?
Yes.
How did that information first come to you?
Through a text message from an anonymous website.
Okay.
Indulgence, please. I'll give you. Your Honor, I do have an objection based on 404. Would the court like to see the document?
Well, I haven't moved to admit it yet. I was just showing you what I'm about to show her.
Okay. If you're just going to show me that, then that's all right. It's 2 pages. It is.
Your Honor, if I may, actually, before I approach with this, when describing how big a part of your marriage the defendant became, you mentioned something about finances. Can you tell me what you meant by that?
Yeah, so There were multiple times when she would help us with like groceries. She would just show up with groceries. She would go to like Sam's Club or BJ's or where, well, BJ's wasn't around there, Costco, and it was like whatever she bought for her household, she would double and buy for our household. And so she did that a few times, and then like if we would go out, she would like get the bill for us. And then it got to the point where by the summer of 2020, we were in talks of opening a summer camp, because that's like my dream, and we were looking at properties and talking about pools, and so we just thought that we were going to be these business partners and open this camp that's nothing like anything that's in the area. So that's just...
Now, you said that the defendant had taken over Chris's job, so did you have some idea of the salary that she was probably making?
I want to say he was less than 50,000, I think, when he was on.
Did the defendant ever give you any idea of how she was going to afford all of these things, or how she did afford what she actually gave you?
It was my understanding from what she told us that she had inherited money from her parents.
Now, going back to the anonymous texts, I'm approaching you with State's Exhibit.
I'm sorry, do we need to get a little disruption?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
If you can just look at that. And there's a second page.
Sorry.
Are those some of the are those the anonymous texts you received?
Yes.
Was that on September 27th?
Yes.
So what did those texts tell you about an affair between your husband and the defendant?
That they thought I should know that my husband got somebody else pregnant.
Did it name the person?
Not at first, but then later on it said, oh, and the person was Meagan Jackson.
Was there anything about the way the defendant's name was spelled that meant anything to you?
Yeah. I just felt like it had to been, I even told Chris, like, when it came through that, I was like, this has to be somebody that knows her because they spelled her name correctly, because I've never seen her name spelled that way until I met her. So I feel like if just anybody, I mean, my name's Erica and people misspell that all the time, so I just felt like you have to know somebody to spell their name correctly, so I knew it had to be somebody close.
Did the text give you any indication of how they were able to find contact information for you?
It said that they found my number on a website. It was like special ed or something, like an educational website.
Was there any information about any trips that correlated with any trips that you knew about that your husband took?
Yes, there was. It wasn't like a screenshot or anything, but it was just a flight number and then the 4 names of the people that traveled.
Who were the 4 names, if you remember?
Well, I know it was Megan, Chris, Savannah, and I think Savannah's friend.
Do you recall what you were doing when you got those texts?
We had dinner plans with my friends, and Chris was on call, so usually when he was on call, we would ride to his car in case he got a call, and then me and the kids would just wait in the car, and so he had just gone into the house when the text message, the first one, came through.
Did they come through over
Yeah, they were spread out, yes.
So what did you do after you got that first one?
I texted him and I said, I need you to get somebody else to cover this call. And I said, we have a family emergency, I need you to come out here.
Did he come out?
Yes.
Did you confront him with the text or show him the text?
Yes, and because it was just from like the free site, he's like, I don't know what this is about. Like, this just must be somebody messing with us, but I'll deal with it after the call. Let me finish the call and we'll talk about it or deal with it.
At some point, did you and Chris talk to the defendant about those texts?
Yes. So once he, so while we were there waiting for him to come out, I got the text message about that he got somebody pregnant and where they found my phone number. And then once we started driving to the restaurant, because we were just like, we already had plans, and he was just saying like, I don't know who would do this. Like, who do you think would do this? And I was like, I don't know. This is not something I expected. And so we were still going to go to dinner. And then that's when the other message came through that said, and it's Meagan Jackson, and I have proof.
When you first got those texts, did you believe it, not believe it? What was going through your mind?
I was in shock. I was like, I don't know why, like, never saw that coming. I never would have imagined that we would be in this position. And that, so then when he seemed to not know anything about it, then we were just kind of like, okay, well, you know, it didn't seem real. Like, I couldn't believe that it was true.
And so did you and Chris talk to the defendant about these texts?
I believe that would elicit for fair evidence responsible, Your Honor. So I believe it's an improper question.
I'll allow.
Thank you. Did either you or did you and your husband together talk to the defendant about those texts?
Yes, once the message came through that said her name, that's when I said, we'll call her. Like, get her on the phone right now. And he did, on speakerphone. And I said, why am I getting text messages that say that you're pregnant, and who is saying this? And she was like, I don't know, I'm getting the kids in the car, I have to call you guys back. And then pretty quickly hung up.
Did you ever have another conversation with her about the texts and who might be sending them?
Later on, there was another time where we were talking, and then she said that she figured it was Greg texting it.
Greg as in her husband?
Yes.
Did you, based on the text that you received, did you do any sort of research about anything?
Well, I looked up my own phone number because I didn't know what that website was, and I was like, well, how's my number just out for the public? And it came up that it was just my online resume from when I was trying to get a teaching job, so that's where it came from.
Did you look up anything else from the text or?
Well, later that evening, because, you know, we had gotten home from the restaurant and everything, and so then I just started looking up, like, just books about marriage and how to save your marriage, because I just felt like if this was even something that we were discussing, like, I mean, I knew we were having some stress and that things were, like, tight and just overwhelming at the time, but I didn't think that it would be to this point.
Did you do anything to prevent getting those types of texts in the future?
I tried to just block the websites or the freetext.com, whatever, so that I couldn't get any more. Because we talked to Megan, she thought it was Greg, and so we just figured we'll just eliminate it being able to come through so that we could kind of work on it and distance ourselves from them, because she had mentioned to a few times in the past just that Greg, was very, like, not protective, that's not the word I want to use, but like anytime she got close to somebody, he would cause problems. And that he had accused her in the past of having affairs with like men from the funeral homes and things. And so,
So what did you said you tried to block it. Did you do anything else? Did you keep your phone?
Yes, well, I kept, because I had 2 phones at the time because I was in the process of trying to get a new teaching job. And so I had gotten a phone number with a South Carolina number because I figured if I'm applying for jobs, it might not look as good if you have an out-of-state phone number, because I've learned that it's all in who you know. And so I wanted to look like I was local and I was here and ready to work. And so at that time I had 2 phones, and then I just kind of stopped using that one. And then Chris did take my phone to see if he could track who or where the message came from with somebody that he worked with at the police department, I think.
Okay. Now you said the defendant had told you that in the past, Greg, I guess, was assertive if she got close to someone.
Yes.
How long had the defendant been in your life at that point?
So if that was September, just since she moved in December, so less than a year.
You testified that you spent quite a bit of time with her.
Yes.
Had you ever had any issues with Greg up to
No.
that point?
I mean, we had never met him or anything. Like, usually just from the stories that she told us and how, you know, she claimed it was so bad. Like, if we knew that he was coming to get the kids or whatever, then we would leave. Like, we're like, well, we don't want to be here, you know, and we would leave if we knew, or she would leave to take the kids where they had to go.
Other than the defendant's own words, did you ever have any evidence that Greg Rice was abusive or inappropriate?
No, just what she told me.
I'm approaching with what's been marked State's Exhibit 99. And there are some email addresses listed under the 2. Can you read the addresses out loud and tell me if you know who they belong to?
EricaDelangelo@gmail.com, Mrs. Dontell@gmail.com.
And whose email addresses are those?
Those are both mine.
Okay.
Colton's mama @gmail.com, Delangelo2@AOL.com, Colton's, sorry, I can't see, mommycoupons@gmail.com, and then Aaron Benford 53114@gmail.com.
Whose email addresses are those?
My family, so it's got my sisters and my dad.
Your sisters, plural?
My one sister, but
Sorry.
it's
Multiple
multiple
emails.
emails, yeah.
Okay. Just so we're clear, do you recall ever receiving this email?
No, I did not.
When your husband would be on call, would he stay with you, stay someplace else? What was that like?
Yeah, when he was on call, I mean, he'd just be at the house because his regular job, he worked from our home office, so he was at home until he got a call, and then he'd go on calls and come home whenever the calls were done.
Would he frequently be gone for kind of hours at a time.
Yes.
Do you remember learning that Greg Rice had disappeared?
Yes.
How did you find out?
Chris told me that Megan called and said that Greg didn't pick up the kids from school.
Do you recall when that was?
I just remember it was a Monday. I guess the first Monday of October.
What did you think at that point?
Objection calls for speculation, I believe. She's not sure what she thinks.
I'm asking her what she thought. That she's not speculating as to what she thought.
Okay, well,
So at the time, based again on conversations that we had, Megan and I just assumed that based on her prior conversations about how he had a drug problem, that he was on a drug binge or something and just left because she had told me that he had done that before.
And again, you had spent time not only with the defendant, but also with her children, correct?
A lot, yes.
So did you have any other information or evidence that Greg Rice had a drug issue other than what the defendant told you?
No, everything that I knew about Greg was from what she told me.
I don't have any questions for right now.